Welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast, a podcast we have here at Foothills Church because we believe that following Jesus was never meant to just happen on a Sunday. We believe that the real test begins on Monday when you're back to real life and you've got deadlines and work meetings and you're in car lines picking up kiddos or you're back at the classroom. And so what we've got this podcast for is we'd like to have conversations that give you practical tools to apply the Bible to your life. Like some of the times we may grab a passage that we've had in a series, or we may jump into something with culture. We've been working through during this series of episodes, really, something we were doing here at Foothills Church, which is our rescue mission, that we believe that God's called us to help people find and follow Jesus, and that mission needs more urgency and even greater sacrifice so that we can help the next person that's far from God come to know Jesus. And so we've got some pillars around that. We've talked about pray first, and then we've been in several episodes now talking about move now, a pillar that's like, hey, life is short and eternity's real. So we want to move wherever God calls us, exactly when he calls us, and like have a bias for action. And so this episode really connects a lot to the last episode. So I would encourage you, we talked in that episode about a vision that God had given to us for our family, or just like a anchor passage where Jesus turns water into wine.
John 2.
Yeah, and John 2:5 has this verse where Mary, Jesus' mother, just makes this statement, do whatever he tells you. And we just said, hey, we want that verse to be the driving force for our family. We want for our kids to know, hey, as a family, we do whatever Jesus tells us, whether it's popular or not popular, whether we agree with it or we don't agree with it, whether it's easy or it's difficult. Whatever he tells us, we do it because we trust him. He is our Savior, but he's also our leader, and he's in charge. And so we turn to him. So inside of that, like as we were talking about it last week, there comes this point where, like, I think about these servants in the story. They go get these jars and start filling them with water. And if someone's like, "What are you doing?" Well, what would they answer?
I mean, yeah, because they were ceremonial washing jars.
Yeah.
So it was like they weren't the cleanest jars. You know what I mean? So it's like,
and what's their most likely answer for why they're doing this?
I don't know. Like they would say,
hey, there's this guy.
Jesus told us to do it.
Jesus told us to do it.
Yeah.
And the reality is there's many things that you're going to do in your faith journey that you're doing because Jesus told you to.
And it's not always going to make sense to people.
It's not always going to make sense.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you have that statement, hey, Jesus told me, you can literally go to a verse and say, here's what I was reading and here's what Jesus said. And so Jesus tells me that's what I have to do. But there's other times that it's less black and white. Like if we go back to some of the early episodes and we talk about when Jesus worked in our hearts to call us to move to South Carolina. We can't go to a verse and say, see, Jesus told me, move to South Carolina.
Right.
There's a journey. And so this just kind of brought up a conversation about how to make sure we're careful with the Jesus told me or God told me, or because if we're not careful, there's times that Jesus does tell us. But if we're being honest, there's times that we heard him wrong, that we misunderstood the story, or even worse, like we could use that phrase to our own advantage when we're not even confident inside of the story, to our own gain. And so it brought up this conversation around using the Lord's name in vain, which is something like I grew up in, a Christian home here in the South, and I had this interpretation of what using the Lord's name in vain is.
Right.
And we even ran into this.
Don't say G-O-D.
We ran into this with my family. This was a few years ago at Christmas.
Yeah, I think Banner was 5 or
That's
something.
Our nephew.
Our nephew.
No, he was younger than that.
You think he was 4?
Yeah, he's like 6 now.
I think he's 7. No, is he 6?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I can't either. All the children.
If my brother Brian's listening, I love you.
There's like 15 cousins, guys. So we can't keep up with the ages.
Oh, let me tell this. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
So we do. There was a message this past August about how with God you have a better story, and I shared a story of my brother Brian, and just what God's done in his life is just amazing. And part of his story is that God's blessed him with this beautiful family. And we throw up a picture of my brother, his wife, and their 4 kids. And I go through and name their kids. And his 4th, his daughter, I did not name her correctly. I named her by my sister's daughter's
kids,
name, like my other niece. I did it both services, and I didn't even know. Like
They're so similar.
Yeah, I called my
One's
mom after, and she was
Rory.
like, "Yeah, the message was good. I mean, you did get Revy Jane's name wrong," and I was like,
Both services.
"What? What? No one? Why didn't you like text me?" And she was like, "Oh, we just thought it was funny." So,
But it's Rory and then it's Revy, so they're
beautiful,
so close.
beautiful names, beautiful girls.
But they are so close.
And,
Anyways, all I have to say is
little sibling stuff. Love you, Brian.
Oh
All right.
my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So Banner is Brian's son. Anyway,
Yes, Brian's son.
no one cares about this information. Go
No,
ahead.
I know. Sorry.
This is
Here
my
we go.
fault. My fault.
Blah,
Sorry.
blah, blah. We're on a rabbit trail. Here we go. Anyways, we're standing around. I don't even remember the situation exactly, but Banner tattletales on me and he says, Auntie Katie just said, "Oh my gosh." And I was like, "Oh my."
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I didn't even realize I had said it. And we don't even like to say,
Sure.
"Oh my gosh," in our house.
Sure.
And so like we try to say, "Oh my goodness," "Oh
Sure.
my,"
Sure.
that sort of thing.
And this isn't
wow,
like every home has a different
Everybody's
approach
so
to
different,
values,
yes.
languages, stuff like that.
Right.
But what I interpreted using the Lord's name in vain as growing up, and what I was even probably taught in a lot of ways, was that it was more about bad language. Like this is, you're using God's name as part of a cuss word or whatever.
Which
And
caveat,
by
that
the
is
way,
important.
Absolutely.
Right. Like,
that is
we're not-
one way
Yes.
to lessen the name of God. And like, we need to take our language seriously. But when God was addressing this inside of, by the way, this is one of the 10 commandments,
Right.
like one of the top 10, like his top 10 list. This is one of them. And the way that he was teaching it is not necessarily how we interpret it as just being flippant with our language. So you want to read the,
Yeah. So it's Exodus 20 and it's verse 7. "You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name."
Yeah. So what a lot of times might happen is using the Lord's name in vain is any time that we take God's name and we use it, whether it's for ourselves or we misrepresent him. In fact, here's a good question, like for you to ask about, man, like, do I ever misuse God's name? Like I would take this a step further and ask you this: am I a good representation of God? Like, there's many times that we've misused God's name simply because we are associated with him by following Jesus, being a part of a church, and then we go act a totally different way. And people are going,
Like your lifestyle.
I thought you were a follower of Jesus. And like, all of a sudden, by the way, you have now, like, as a Christian, you are now carrying
his name.
That does not mean that he expects perfection, but there is a reverence that you need to understand. Like,
My life is not my own.
yeah, and he calls us to, from this point forward, as we follow him, like, he's transforming us. We don't earn his love, but in response, as we're on mission, as we're moving now, he calls us to be set apart and holy, that our lives would begin to reflect him. And so, so yeah, am I a good representation of God? But the other thought is making sure that we're positive when we use his name inside of a story, that he wanted us to use his name inside of that story. For example, like the whole "God told me" thing that we've been talking. Well, we lived in Nashville, and we talked about people that name drop
Oh, yes. Yep.
all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And why do people name drop?
Well, because it makes you feel more uppity.
Yeah.
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 It makes you feel better about yourself.
Yeah,
of
like levels you, starts everybody
Yes.
leveling it up.
Yes.
And I always love, like, if people use a first name basis, you know?
Oh my.
Like, yeah.
Hey, I know Nick.
Yeah.
Or you probably know him as Nick Saban. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, he's not in Nashville. I'm thinking
I'm
musicians
kidding.
like Taylor.
No, I know. And you're like,
Okay.
oh,
Yeah, sorry.
that's who you're talking about.
Yeah. I didn't know her by her first name, but that's cool. But people will name drop to kind of get ahead. Well, people can do this with God to get ahead. I still remember I was this was, man, I don't know how many years ago, but we were interviewing for a role at a church, and this pastor at the time, and we weren't even fully interviewing. They were pursuing us. And I mean, again, this is years and years ago, but this guy's like, hey, God straight up told me you're supposed to come here and work with us. And I just remember in the moment being like, wow. First off, that was really bold for him to say that. And if God did, wow, okay, I want to pay attention to that. But my very next thought is, well, God hadn't told me.
Right.
And in fact, just being dead level honest, what that did, it like repelled. It made it repel, like it repelled me. It was like a little bit repulsive, where I was like, yeah, actually,
like a red flag.
Yeah, actually, God might have just told me through this weird conversation that I'm not coming here.
Right.
Because
totally.
that's just, I just don't know. And what I've just found in my experience, we talked about it the first episode, how we thought God told us we weren't moving to South Carolina.
Yeah. Yes.
We were convinced. Yeah. And if you had asked us a few days before we clearly heard God,
right,
we would have told you we had already clearly heard God.
Right.
Because we're still humans.
Yes.
Like, we have to understand, we are still on this journey where I can get it wrong.
Oh, without a doubt.
You can get it wrong.
Absolutely.
And many times we will get it wrong.
Yeah.
So we have to be so careful when we use God's name, because there are times that Jesus lays something on our heart, or God tells us something, and he wants us to be obedient, do whatever he tells, but how do we do that carefully? And so what I thought about was, one of the cool parts of our journey here was my buddy's dream.
Yep.
Which was also just kind of an interesting journey. This is my buddy Justin, and you want to just like tell about? I'm trying to remember like the whole scene of how he brought this to us.
Well, okay, so backstory is you and him would do prayer times on Thursdays. So y'all built this tight knit relationship, which that's amazing. And you were in a men's group with him.
Yeah.
But me and Justin weren't tight. You know what I mean? Like, we were kind and cordial and friendly and that sort of thing to each other, but it wasn't like we were tight. And so there was one day he called you and you were at home, and he was like, hey, is Katie there? I need to put you, like, can you put me on speakerphone? I need to tell Katie something too. Which is just like, wait, what? You know what I mean? Like, what? Because we don't ever, anyways. So then he proceeds to tell us this. He was like, listen, take this for what it is. I don't know exactly what it means, but I feel like the Lord has laid something on my heart just to share with you guys. And he was being so kind about it.
I think that, like, I remember that specific, take this for what it is.
Right. Like, he was so like,
even
I don't
after
even know
he
if
said,
this
I
is.
think the Lord's laid this on my heart, he even said, it may not be.
Right.
That is a helpful way to go about this. Like, if you feel like, man, God is just like, that's a helpful way.
Right.
To be very, very cautious. And what he's about to share would be a good form. I'm just going to real quick. If you're a young single dude, don't even ever take that approach if you're trying to ask a girl out of like, I think God laid this on my heart.
I think you're
I'm not sure.
To date me.
I just like let God work on her heart. And then later, if you've got some cool moment that you're journaled and it's like, oh, God told me this day, you can give that to her on her wedding day and you'll look way cool at that point. But don't manipulate her in the first part.
Yeah. So I think that's what was so helpful about Justin having this conversation with us, is because it was just so like nonchalant. It was like out of the norm, but it was also so like kind and nonchalant too, because he just proceeds to tell us, this is prior to us moving here. He's like, hey, Katie, I feel like, so in the dream, do we want to describe the dream? It's like,
well, yeah.
In the dream, Justin and Kevin were like walking to another building. Like, there was like church building here, and then the offices were here. They were walking on this path to the office building, and I come running up, and I think in the dream I pick you up and give you a piggyback ride. And Justin's like, wait, Katie, what are you doing? Like, we're going to the church offices. And I pick you up on my back and I start carrying you. And I'm like, no, we have to go this way. Kevin's got to go lead worship over here.
Yeah.
And he's like, take it for what it is.
Well,
I don't know what it means, but I had this dream 2 nights in a row.
2 nights in a row. That's what it was. He wasn't going to tell us.
No, he
And then he was like,
wasn't.
I had it 2 nights in a row. And then I'll be just dead level honest. I've never had experiences like this. So
Same.
that was the end of that.
Yeah.
I was
we were
like, cool.
okay,
All right.
That was interesting.
I don't know what that's about, but or just being honest, right? Like,
so true.
I didn't go immediately and go, oh God, you got to like unpack
What
this
does that
dream for me.
mean? Yeah,
So,
same.
And like, just because if it's not super clear in the moment, it's okay. And by the way, if someone brings something to you that they say is from God, it says in Thessalonians to test and approve every prophecy. Like you're to take this stuff and test it. So like, if that's from God, God will confirm it.
Yes.
So then it was so wild because that happened. And then if you go back and listen to our first episode, we share with you that we thought we weren't supposed to move here. And I moved here originally for a role in worship.
Yeah.
And it was
a worship
Katie
role.
who had heard from God inside of the auditorium. This people is my people. This church is my church. None of this is a step back. And like we're both bawling.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we
had moved here.
Yes.
That we were like,
No. We were about to move.
Wait.
I got coffee with Justin, and I'm just telling him the whole story, and he is just beaming, and he's going, Kevin, that's the dream. That's the dream.
I forgot
like
it was that
literally.
way, yes.
And by the way, what we didn't know at that time, Justin he had worked at he was a pharmaceutical rep, and he was just a volunteer and an elder at our church, and so he'd prayed with me. Well, like God would continue to confirm parts of that because God led us here, but Justin would replace me as
he's
the campus pastor at that, and he's still there today.
Yes.
So and then I got to go back around and be like, yo, look
You
at
were
part of this
God,
dream too. Like
yes.
this is crazy.
Yes.
So, but that approach of this could be God,
Right.
but man, I'm human. And sometimes I just have weird dreams.
Yes,
and
totally.
that could be nothing.
Right.
That is such an important approach because it lets God be the driver. Let God confirm his name. What I would encourage you is don't ever use God's name as a license for your own gain.
Yeah.
Don't ever use his name as a license for your own selfish
Agenda.
gain.
Right.
The scriptures say, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain
Right.
conceit. Consider others more important than yourself. Like this is a humility portion. Let God kind of drive this. Let him confirm things in cool ways.
Yeah.
Because then you know when you get to the end of it that you never manipulated anything.
Yes.
I
And
mean-
God gets all the credit.
Yeah.
And then you don't look crazy either. Like that's one thing too, is you're like, I might look crazy right now. Like, you know what I mean? But I'm going to let God just work it out. So yeah.
Yeah. So
Whereas the other guy it was just kind of like,
totally. Yeah.
okay.
So that would be my encouragement. Like, do whatever God tells you, but don't, like, inside of that, don't take his name as kind of your, like, man, I'm using this as a license for myself. In fact, Jesus was appalled by this.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways that God's name was misused in the New Testament is the one story where we see Jesus's righteous anger flare up. So there was the time of like sacrifices and the Passover, right? And at the temple, what would happen is people would come in and the poor could not bring their own animal sacrifices.
Right.
So inside of the temple, you had these other market like exchange folks that would set up and sell opportunities for sacrifices,
Right.
but they would hike up the prices because people were in need. So think of it like, when you go to a ball game and like a
The
Coke is
concessions
$12
are-
and a hot dog's
They're
$18.
crazy,
And
right.
it's like, because they know you can't leave the stadium and this is what people were doing, but they were doing it in God's house, in God's name. Like most people think, oh, it's because they had any money going on in the church. And what about that? They were taking advantage of the poor people, and they were doing it inside of the vein of and in the name of God
Lord,
and his sacrificial system at the time. And so Jesus goes, Jesus takes his time, makes a whip, goes in there and cracks that whip. Like we see Jesus flipping tables because he is not okay with God's name being misused in a way that takes advantage of people. It's totally, that's not his kingdom. His
Right.
kingdom's upside down.
Yeah.
He honors those that are weak and gives grace to the humble. Like, so anyways, just Do whatever he tells you. Like, move now, but be careful with his name. Let him carry and defend his name in the process. Just thought that'd be a fun little side street to stop on. And we'll stop for there. Guys,
Awesome.
have a fantastic rest of your week.